You have probably heard the idea that life becomes easier once you find balance. But for many people, this statement feels vague and almost unreachable. When you hear the phrase living between yin and yang, you might imagine an ideal state of perfect calm, where nothing bothers you and every day flows effortlessly. Yet Taoist wisdom paints a different picture. It does not promise a life without difficulty. It promises a way to move through difficulty with clarity rather than confusion. The art of balance is not something you achieve by force. It is something you cultivate by understanding how yin and yang interact within you and around you. And before you learn how to find balance, you must understand why imbalance is so common in the first place. Look honestly at your daily life. You are surrounded by noise, expectations, and constant movement. Most people live in a world that rewards speed, pressure, and non-stop activity. This creates an excess of yang energy, the energy of action and outward motion. You feel it when you push yourself, even though you are tired, when you try to meet more demands than your body can handle, when you measure your worth by how much you produce. And the result is not strength, but exhaustion. On the opposite side, there are moments when people sink into inactivity, hesitation, or emotional withdrawal. This happens after disappointment, fear, or overwhelming responsibility. Your inner world becomes heavy, slow, and quiet. This is excess yin. The energy of inward retreat and pause is less than #0. 5 is greater than, and too much of it leads not to peace, but to stagnation. Taoist wisdom says that imbalance will always appear when one energy grows louder than the other. And the first step toward balance is recognizing this natural truth. You cannot find harmony by denying your state or fighting it. You find harmony by observing it with honesty. So, what does it actually mean to live between yin and yang in a practical sense? It means learning to move in rhythm with the situation around you, rather than forcing one fixed state onto every moment. Taoist masters often teach that the strongest person is not the one who holds a rigid stance, but the one who adapts, like water finding its path. To practice this flexibility, you begin with awareness. Awareness is the foundation of Taoist balance, because you cannot correct what you cannot see. Taoist awareness is simple. You pay attention to the state of your body, your breathing, your emotions, and your thoughts. When your breath is shallow and fast, your yang is rising. When your breath is slow and heavy, your yin is deepening. When your shoulders tense and your jaw tightens, yang is trying to push through. When your body feels heavy and your focus fades, yin is growing dominant. You do not need spiritual visions to recognize these states. Your body already tells the story. Once you recognize which energy is dominant, the next step is adjustment. Taoist balance is achieved through gentle redirection rather than forceful correction is less than #0. 5 is greater than, you do not fight your state. You lean slightly in the opposite direction to restore harmony. Imagine you are filled with restless energy, unable to slow your thoughts or sit in silence. In that moment, your yang is overflowing. A Taoist response would not be to criticize yourself for being stressed or to push through with even more action. Instead, you invite yin to return by grounding your senses, slowing your breath, or allowing yourself a few minutes of stillness. The goal is not to erase yang, but to soften it. In contrast, imagine you feel stuck, unmotivated, or surrounded by hesitation. Your yin has grown heavy. A Taoist approach is not to shame yourself for lacking drive. You introduce a small amount of yang, not through huge goals, but through a single, simple action. Take a short walk. Organize a small part of your space. Make one decision. This slight movement awakens yang and prevents yin from becoming overwhelming. Taoism does not ask you to seek a perfect 50-50 state. Life is constantly changing, and your internal energies change with it. Balance is the skill of adjusting with each moment, rather than clinging to one fixed identity. To understand this more deeply, imagine the concept of Wu Wei, which is often translated as effortless action. Many misunderstand this as doing nothing, but Taoist wisdom describes it differently. Effortless action means acting in harmony with the natural state of things, instead of forcing results through pressure or resistance, is less than #0. 5# is greater than. It is the skill of knowing when to push and when to wait, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to pursue and when to let go. When you practice Wu Wei, you begin to feel how yin and yang support each other rather than compete. Stillness gives your actions purpose. Action gives your stillness meaning. You stop wasting energy on unnecessary struggle and begin using your strength at the right moments. Let us explore how this works in specific areas of life. In decision-making, yin gives you the ability to reflect, understand, and see the layers of a situation. Yang gives you the courage to choose a path and commit to it. When you choose without reflection, you create chaos. When you reflect without choosing, you create delay. Balance requires both. In relationships, yin allows you to listen, empathize, and create emotional space for others. Yang allows you to set boundaries, express your needs, and protect your sense of self. If you give endlessly without speaking your truth, yin overwhelms you. If you speak without listening, yang disrupts connection. In personal growth, yin guides your inner work, your self-understanding, and your ability to let go of old patterns. Yang guides your outward actions, your goals, and your willingness to step into new experiences. Growth without rest leads to burnout. Rest without growth leads to stagnation. These examples reveal something important. Balance is not a spiritual luxury. It is a practical way of shaping your choices so that your energy flows, instead of breaks, is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Another essential Taoist principle for finding balance is simplicity. Taoism teaches that life becomes heavy when you carry more than you need. Too many commitments, too many expectations, too many desires, too many fears. When your life is cluttered, your mind becomes cluttered, and yin and yang lose their natural rhythm. Simplicity is not about reducing your life to nothing. It is about keeping what nourishes you and letting go of what burdens you. A simple life allows energy to flow smoothly. A complicated life traps energy in constant friction. Taoist masters often compared the human mind to a lake. When the water is calm, you can see clearly to the bottom. When the water is stirred, your vision becomes distorted. Balance comes from calming the water of the mind through simplicity, honesty, and awareness. Another Taoist path to balance is natural timing. Every situation has its own rhythm, just like every season arrives when conditions are right. Spring does not force itself during winter. Summer does not rush to arrive before its time. Nature knows how to wait and how to move. So do you, if you stop forcing yourself to live on someone else's timeline. Many forms of imbalance come from acting at the wrong time or waiting too long to act. Taoist wisdom teaches you to feel the right moment rather than overthink it. When conditions are ready, yang acts. When conditions are uncertain, yin waits. This is not passivity. It is harmony with reality is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Finally, the deepest Taoist teaching on balance is acceptance. Not passive acceptance, but the kind that frees your energy rather than trapping it. When you resist what you cannot control, your mind becomes a battlefield. When you accept the present state, you reclaim the energy needed to change what can be changed. Acceptance softens yin. Clarity strengthens yang. Together, they create movement that feels natural rather than forced. As you reflect on these teachings, consider your own life right now. Where do you push too hard? Where do you hesitate too long? Where do you cling to complexity when simplicity would free you? Where do you ignore the natural timing of things and create unnecessary tension for yourself? Balance begins the moment you acknowledge these truths without judgment. Taoist wisdom guides you to live in a way that feels aligned rather than chaotic. A way that honors your limits and your potential at the same time. A way that lets you return to yourself even when the world feels overwhelming. So when you hear the phrase, the art of balanced living between yin and yang, remember that it is not a mystical idea meant for distant sages. It is a daily practice of awareness, adjustment, simplicity, natural timing, and acceptance. These principles guide you toward a quieter mind, a steadier heart, and a life that flows instead of fractures. If this message resonates with you, feel free to stay for more reflections like this. For now, may you walk your path with clarity, and may your yin and yang support you with gentle cooperation rather than conflict.